welcome. This is Ellen Seidel with our new show here called Define Yourself. A little bit about me and about our show. I'm the founder of the Seidel Method, which is a multidisciplinary approach to maximizing human potential. And what breaks my heart is seeing professionals and managers who believe that they can't reach the next rung in their career ladder. And I help these professionals and managers to thrive in their current role and use it to position themselves for further growth and impact. And what they discover through this process is they also, and perhaps more importantly, gain increased meaning in the work they pursue. And what the show is all about, the Define Yourself show, is to have a conversation with a captivating, empathetic, and motivating individual. And Christine Lanesmith fits the bill today. So happy to have her here. And these individuals possess the unique ability to tap into and uncover their extraordinary human potential. And that's what we aim to do here. We want to explore human potential at work and beyond from the perspective that prioritizes each of us as whole humans before we fill in fill in the blank for our various roles, whether that's employee, manager, business owner. And so without further ado, I will introduce Christine Lanesmith. Welcome. Christine is the president and owner of Good Burn Profit Retention. She's the founder and president of Your Platinum Future Incorporated, ambassador for 4EL Energy and the Stingray Wind Energy System. She's active in the areas of finance, clean energy, and education. In her own business, Christine and her team specialize in relationship-based collections, leading to exceptional customer retention. As an entrepreneur building multiple businesses, she's learned the importance of collaboration. And I can know that and attest to that since we've been collaborating. And Christine's definite purpose in life is to connect entrepreneurs with teams and resources that will inspire and equip them to create their own magnificent future. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So amazing. We got to unpack all that, and maybe you have 50 minutes. So we're going to be busy. So I want to start off though with this area. I just think it's so interesting. This whole episode is about building raving fans, and this is from the people that you are actually contacting for collections. So tell me how collection calls become one of your favorite business activities. That would be amazing for me and the audience to learn about.
Oh, thanks, Ellen. It's funny because, it's an unusual thing to say, oh, the favorite part of my day is when I get to make a collections call. Because when you think about it, if people don't want to hear from a telemarketer, then probably even more so, they really don't want to hear from the person that's saying, hey, you're behind on your payments. But here's the difference. It's not you're behind on your payments and you better pay up because you've been irresponsible. And, it's, hey, life has obviously happened. I know you had a dream. And so we're here to work together to help you reach that goal. And I really see, as I, listen to your introduction and for this show, it's the same thing. It's people first. Goals are important, but not before the relationship. And so I love relating to people. I love problem solving and put that together in a setting where I can truly help both my client, the customer who has the accounts receivable issue, and the customer who's in that situation. It's just magic for me.
Wow. So we'll go to the next question. We might have touched upon it. So, how I love how you kind of framed it up. So now I know a little bit more about how the conversation happens, but how do you create the raving fans? Tell me more about how the relationship unfolds.
Well, when people end up defaulting on a payment, and one of my favorite areas to be in is the education and personal growth world. So people have purchased something, whether it's a certification or a high-end program, a course, something that they saw would help them reach their goals. They had a dream, and then, life happened. And a typical approach in my experience from both ends, because yes, I have been on the receiving end of a collections call, many actually. I've been through bankruptcy myself. And is that, the people in collections or in accounts receivable with overdue accounts are labeled as irresponsible, or they're the deadbeats. Oh, who wants to call them? Nobody. Okay, we have to, whatever it is. And that's just simply not true. And that's been my experience over and over again. Of course, there's some irresponsible people everywhere, whether they paid or not, but that is not the majority at all. And so when you treat people with dignity and respect when they're in their most difficult times, because almost always, it's been a death in the family or illness or job loss or divorce or something unexpected. And when you treat them and build a relationship with them at that point, they become the raving fans of the organization that you represent.
Wow. It's such an opportunity, really, for this kind of, human first, this compassionate approach for so many businesses. I'm just wondering if you have a couple stories to tell about this. We'll keep the names, what goes in.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it's just, and you and I got to know each other through one of the organizations that you actually had done this approach with. So I know something about that background. So if you feel like you can share any of that, that would be helpful too. So
Yeah, I have lots of great stories because I've talked to hundreds of great people all around the world. A lot of them coaches and trainers or speakers, and a lot of them entrepreneurs, but also people within organizations where they saw that they were going to be able to make a difference in the company they work for, and now things have gone sideways for whatever reason. And let's see. Which one do I want to pick? I'll pick one from the entrepreneurial side first. It was an example of someone who didn't pick up. Now, we're very persistent in a very relationship building way, because trust me, whether you have a job, whether you're building a business, you can build relationships with the people around you, even they won't talk to you initially. And that's hard for us to understand. So this guy, I was just doing my thing. I was phoning, I was leaving voicemails and probably some texts. There was emails going out regularly. We really seek through our communication to add value. But boy, I got a surprise one day when I was doing my, I'll leave a voicemail again and see. And he picked up and he said, Christine. The first time I've ever talked to this guy, but it was at least a dozen voicemails plus all the other touch points into the process. And he said, Christine, you are the absolute queen of follow-up. I have learned so much. I know I've been a pain in not picking up. I realize that, and I'm sorry, but I have changed the way I do business based on what I've learned through your stellar follow-up. And I thought, wow, we are making a difference, even with the approach of we're just going to build a relationship until you're ready. And he was ready. I've had people pay their bills over 10 years after they fell into the accounts receivable. So it pays to keep building relationships, keep nurturing those relationships, keep adding value. So that's one story that I always find, because I'm also, as you know, operate in the sales world, and we give up too quickly. And this guy had changed his business practices.
That's such a testimonial. It's so funny because you expect testimonials from like services rendered, not just being like very stick to itiveness or something.
Yeah. Persistence is so important, and it makes sense because when you're building a relationship, we all know that you have to put effort in, and it takes time. Trust doesn't happen instantly, even in the best of circumstances. So that was a good one. Do you want another story?
Yeah, I love stories.
This one is more from the ministry and coach side. It was actually a minister, a pastor in rural, and you know what? I can't actually remember if it was Indonesia or Malaysia, but it was rural Asia. It was an Asian country, and this gentleman had I mean, he had challenges meeting the payment simply because of his life, work, and circumstances, but he was determined. And so he was pretty discouraged that he hadn't been able to make it work. But we were able to work together, figure out, okay, there's this option or there's this option. We'll meet you in the middle. We'll help out here. We want to help you get to your dream. And he chose to wait, which wasn't my first recommendation, but it was perfectly fine. He knew his circumstances better than I did. And instead of making small, regular payments, so back to the persistence, which is a good lesson for all of us. A couple months later, I got a call from him. He was quite devastated because he had not just taken that first small step and continued with persistence. And he said, now the money that I saved up has to go towards a family emergency. But Christine, I'm absolutely sure that if I'd just taken one step and then another small step and another small step, both would have worked out. I would have made progress towards my goal, and we would have been able to meet this emergency situation. And he said, so I won't wait any longer. I'm going to take one small step that I can take today. And that's really, again, the magic of relationship-based collections, where their goals and them as a person is first. And he made it. He reached his goal in time, and it was just a wonderful story of success.
It also just makes my tiny habits, heart,
Mhm.
blossom. There's a great Yiddish word called kavel, which Kvell, which is sort of like swell with pride.
Yes, yes.
Just like that. Those small steps. They add up. And I think we discount them because we want to run the marathon from the very beginning. Well,
Yeah.
people don't start running marathons from nothing. So
Here's something that's really funny. Just within an hour of us getting on here, I got a text from another person who I've met through my work, who's part of our network, and so I'll keep names confidential, obviously, but they sent me this text just in the last hour. Greatness is all about helping someone who cannot give back. It's about spending time with the person and helping them get where they want to go in life, walking with them, helping them reach for their goals. It's more than the goals, it's about the person. And that's what makes it meaningful for both. And I'm got like, oh my goodness, I don't think I could have come up with a better description of what I do. It wasn't related to collections at all. It was just a thought that he was sharing. So
wow, that's
yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So I know that I think that I've been hanging around Mike Kim a lot these days because he's so good with the copywriting and the marketing. And he has, when he talks about what marketing, he goes, sales marketing is not closing a sale, it's opening a relationship.
Yes.
And I think that could be really true though for way more than just sales, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the invitation, and then it's the walk along the path and the journey that keeps inviting, right?
Yes. And it's not just in relation to, a company client or customer relationship. It's the relationships within your team. It's your relationships with those that work that you're managing, or that's those that you report to. Those relationships, if you apply these principles, it works everywhere. Family, friends.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn the page to my next question. And so, part of what my program is hoping to appeal to in terms of an audience is, knowledge workers and managers, at any level in corporations. And obviously, those that have P&L and have to manage the budget and stuff, maybe you can give a little bit of a summary of the results, because obviously your collections process is, very unique, and you got me. I think it would be amazing, to look at it through that lens of, serving to solve people's challenges, and work with them. like let's find the win-win. So yeah.
Yeah, and it truly is a win-win. I think if an organization goes the traditional route and sells their accounts to a third-party collection, you don't very often get much win in any direction. But to give you an example of results in one organization, me and my very small team single-handedly dealt with almost 2,000 accounts that we closed out of accounts receivable over the course of several years, with an average ROI between 400 and 500%, meaning that it didn't cost the company anything. What they paid us, we collected for them, in multiples. And that's over $2 million for the company. Now, that, if you've got a company that's 25 to 30 million, because it's the smallish company per year, that sounds like a drop in the bucket in some ways, but it's not, because though the cost of the sale has already been paid. So this is like 10 times as much revenue in sales rescued at the back end, where people don't realize how much profit is being lost. So it's very substantial, and there's the win-win, because you have, and that's only counting the money collected, not the referrals that are going to come because they're raving fans, and not the repeat sales, because these people know how much you care. They're going to be back.
Right. And that doesn't, I mean, we don't know what the brand equity is because of all the goodwill from the people that are these raving fans. Yeah. It's interesting. When I worked at my first company, out of well, actually, it wasn't quite my first company, but when I worked at a pretty big food company, we actually, in the supply chain, made the profit for the division one year because we had our return on invested capital, because we reduced our inventories like 25%. And the president, who was actually more in like the marketing arena, told the salespeople to turn around and shake the hand of the supply chain people, because they would have had to sell $4 for every $1 of efficiency we generated in reducing inventory. And so I hear what you're saying. It's like you kind of really look at the P&L and think about what the bottom line, impacts are. Yeah. And the intangibles, like we were talking about, the goodwill and all that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about your, we're talking about the whole human here. So I want to learn more about your family life. As a mother of 6, didn't you homeschool your children? I'm dying to know how that story went. And I'd love to hear more about how you managed, juggled, kind of in parentheses, raising your kids and any time into the preparation for your entrepreneurship duty, kind of journey.
How did I juggle? I get asked, how did you do that? And sometimes I ask myself, how did I do that? And, truly was one day at a time. I am a mother of 6, just about to be a grandmother of 7. And, but it was, I didn't have any multiple births. They all came one at a time. And so it was a gradual process. And that's what I needed. To be able to build towards it. But I did homeschool, and I had the incredible privilege of homeschooling 11 other children.
Oh my goodness. You mean it wasn't enough, Christine, like really?
17 kids that I educated for at least a year full time, but most of them for 2, 3, 4, up to 6 or 7 years. All grades between, so small group. It was a very small private school, but all grades between kindergarten and grade 8, and all subjects. And how did I juggle? I'll give you an example.
That could be a good ebook. So keep that in mind.
I'll give you some examples of how we cross the education and entrepreneur, because that relates to my big life dream of helping entrepreneurs. And again, I see entrepreneurs not just as people who are starting businesses, but entrepreneurs who want to be innovative and creative, and in their whatever setting they're in. I built entrepreneurial principles into my education program for myself and the kids at the same time. And that made a huge difference. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, cash flow game. The kids, when they were, in kindergarten and grade one, started learning about assets and liabilities and the difference. And again, that applies to all of life. If you're, in the so-called rat race and want to get out of it in any way, you need to understand that. And then we built businesses together.
Wow. So
We,
when I was in junior high, I was in junior achievement.
yes,
And back in those days, I think it's changed. I'm that old, but anyway, it changed.
we did.
And we like formulated a company, like
Mhm.
8 of us. We each put $1 in, so we had $1 of, like one share in a company. We just figured out what we were going to sell. I was even in inventory management back then, but but it was such an amazing learning experience. And so when I was raising my kids, I'm like compounding interest. So this is amazing that you're giving, these concepts at such an early age. So keep telling your story. Sorry, I got all excited.
No, it's good. So yeah, we learned together, and that related to really every area of life. We did projects together. We worked as a team, as I say, kindergarten to grade 8. To my older kids who had moved on, they would come back and help us with projects. I'm a big proponent of practical education. Hands-on. The academics are important; they're great. They're the basics that we'll build on. But so I'll give you an example of a hands-on project. It might not sound as practical as building a business, but it really was. It was putting on Shakespeare productions. And we did it 3 times with this little group of, and they were phenomenal. And when you think of the practical side, like there is the reading and the discussing, and then the design and the blocking and the sewing and the music and rehearsal and helping each other, the collaboration. The third time we did this, we had our youngest participant was, I think he would have been grade 2 by then, and terrible stage fright. And so there was part of him that really didn't want to be in this production, but he wanted to at the same time. And we all worked together. We all had to be patient. The older kids had to realize that, he wasn't going to be able to do it if they didn't support him. So again, it's that whole person. It's the working together, and it's doing practical things that make a difference.
That reminded me, my youngest daughter, where we lived, my oldest daughter, it was already too late for her, but there was a special swimming school when she was like, I don't even know what grade, second grade. And everybody knew about and it was basically a woman who had a pool, and her daughter was like an Olympia swimmer in college. And so the entire summer, everybody had to, like, all the parents, oh my God, you got to sign up really fast. And I would call it the Tough Love School of Swimming. But what was so cool about it was that the kids were scared. And the whole situation was that you had to stretch them, just like when we get scared, even in adults, they're like, get out of your comfort zone. Well, this was that equivalent for learning how to swim when they didn't know how to swim. And they literally like had them go into the pool, and then they told the parents, just smile the whole time. I don't care if they're crying. I don't care if they're complaining. And we're just going to say, oh, and now we do this. And so pretty much okay, they're crying. They're not completely happy, but they were very safe the whole time, was just kind of being ignored, but, encouraged to learn and get out of their comfort zone. And I swear to God, by day 2.5, they were doing things I never knew they could do. And by the end of 2 weeks, because it was every day for like a half hour, they were swimming down the slides. They were doing all this stuff. So it sounded a little bit like that, the
Yeah.
support with the team to like allow them to go through the terror and the terror barrier. We heard that one.
Yeah, I love that you use the term tough love too, and particularly the love side of it. Tough can have different connotations, but it's so important. And this youngest student of mine who had the stage fright, he was very intelligent, had some learning challenges, but also just, yeah, an incredible person, but very, very very strong-willed. And the first 2 years, seriously, I taught him for 3 years total, full-time in my home. For the first 2 years, it felt like a complete struggle of who was going to be the dominant player in this relationship. Of course, I as a teacher, how do I navigate this? And, somewhere between the second and third year, he said to his mom, he said, I've had 3 teachers because he had been to daycare, he had been to junior kindergarten, then he came to me for kindergarten, and I had him for the 3 years. And he said, and Christine's the best because she loves me. And honestly, Ellen, I don't even know how that kid at that stage knew that I loved him because I wasn't sure. Quite honestly, that I loved him enough to continue the struggle, but it played out, and I mean, he's still in touch with me to this day. He's graduated, oh, not graduated. He's finished his first year of college, and it comes back around to the relationship.
You outstubborned him, which got, and you were stuck with him. That's a form of love and dedication. Like you weren't gonna be deterred.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the next topic. Maybe even weave in the previous topic. I know that you're an entrepreneur, and obviously you were doing some pretty amazing things with, teaching and stuff. I've got to imagine you've got so many lessons that you could share. Maybe you can think of 1 or 2, or, we'll give you a bonus lesson because I love wisdom. So I'm going to get my pencil and paper out here.
Well, it comes back around to love, but in this case, one of the big lessons is to do what you love. And again, this applies to all of life. And it can take on a lot of different forms. It doesn't mean you have to love everything you do. You can love what you do because of the people you do it for. You can love what you do because it is like really fun for you. You can love what you do because of where you do it and who you do it with. So lots of variations on that. But Ellen, I know you and I have talked about Jim Collins' hedgehog principle. Do what you love, find the intersection. So imagine a Venn diagram with what you love, what you can be best at, and what generates income. Because those are all really important. And, surprisingly for me over the last number of years, the intersection of those has been collections. I would never have guessed, but I was given this beautiful opportunity to build a business in an area I would never have thought of myself and find out that it applies to all of life. So do what you love, whatever that means. And it has the second part for me is do it for the reasons that are right for you. Society tells us all sorts of reasons why we should be doing this, that, or the other thing, but there's no shoulds here. When it comes to loving what you do, ask why, and remember that why is an open-ended question. Now, if you ask other people why, they can get defensive. It's not necessarily a good question to use in negotiation or sales or reflections. Why are you in this situation? But why for yourself? It keeps it open. Why am I doing this? It's, and it leads very much to the what. What do I love? What can I be best at? And what generates income? So
that reminds me, let me share a little bit with what I did when I ran a Fortune 12 company mentor program. And I realized that in order, because it was a little bit of reverse mentoring in that the mentees got to figure out what soft skills they wanted to build together. So it was very much collaboration. But to do that, I wanted them, I'm an analyst, I'll be honest. You guys probably figured this is the interview 4. But anyway, I was like, let's try to figure out what skills we're doing and using, because in my mind, we're using them because that's where our talent lies. So that's one of your Venn diagrams. But the way to do that, to kind of reverse engineer it, was to think about, come up with 3 to 5. It was ultimately 7 life stories, but, or work stories, 3 to 7 stories where you hit it out of the ballpark. You just felt so proud of yourself afterwards. You had hurdles that you overcame, and you like write them out in a specific format, and then you mine the skills you're using, because that tends to be a pattern. And this could be even people that are just like graduating college, because most likely they had a class or at least an assignment, or maybe they had a volunteer job, or I mean, there's so many different angles to that, that you can still mine that. And so that kind of reminds me of what you're saying here. It's like you've been using the skills, and if you use them in an area where you just really enjoyed that one little project or job or whatever,
Yeah.
then you're likely to be able to seek the future by using those same skills. It could be a different arena or a different industry, or there's so many different ways to apply it. That's amazing. Any more before we go to the next
Oh,
question?
here's my bonus one.
Oh, okay.
Don't find when you're building connections and network, because we all need to do that, whether we realize it or not, if we want to expand. Don't fall into the trap of birds of a feather flock together. Build as much diversity up front, because then when you build the relationships that are the right ones to reach your goals, you'll have this beautiful array to choose from at each stage in your life. Good connections with a wide range of people. And so look for that diversity, that richness of life. And I learned this even as a white middle class North American with all the all the blinders on and everything, when I had an opportunity to move to St. Louis, Missouri, and work for 8.5 years cross culturally, and amazing. And it just, so that's my bonus one. Build diversity at the very beginning.
And we could talk for hours about that, but I kind of, one of the things that, maybe because I just love DISC, I think about the diversity even in our communication styles, or our, personality styles. So there's so many different levels to that. That's awesome.
And it's not necessarily easy. I mean, diversity can be challenging, but so rich when you embrace it and go, okay,
Okay. So what are your top priorities going into 2024?
Okay, let's see. Definitely cash flow coming out of COVID, and having my clients, experiencing the challenges. I lost a major contract, and so I have to build that all back up. It's a priority for me. I realized even in the last couple of days, to really master money management. I'm good at managing money. I've become good at talking about money because that's collections. That's what you're talking about. But it's an ongoing process to really master the skills and to master the mindset that goes with it. So that's a huge priority for me right now going into 2024. And the other one is writing. I'm an author. I've written. I haven't published a book yet, but I love writing. But it's probably been one of the biggest areas of lack of self-confidence for me. I'm not even sure why, but I feel so ready. And I feel like I've felt ready for a long time, and I still haven't taken that step. So that's a priority for me.
That's great. So when I first introduced you, you have all these titles, and I don't know if we've explained it to people. So founder and president of Your Platinum Future. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so that's an education platform that I started with a team of entrepreneurs, and we are working together, collaborating to bring our training. So we are all people who have years, many decades even, of practical experience in a wide range of fields, that we can share practical knowledge, but we're also committed as trainers to the coaching process. So I mentioned my commitment to practical education. I can see so much that as a network, we can offer to the world to help other people to be innovative, entrepreneurial in their settings, and to help their families do the same. So that's Your Platinum Future. We're together building a community, a network of people globally that are looking for that kind of education that we offer.
That's awesome. And so ambassador for 4EL Energy and the Stingray Wind Energy System.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, 4L stands for 4 elements, and wind, air being one of them. And this is the next generation of wind power technology. So here's the tie-in with my passion, with remembering that overarching desire to really help people connect with top quality education. Well, Ellen, that is not relevant or going to be relevant if we don't solve the problem of the more than 1,000 children under the age of 5 who are going to die today and every day until we solve this just from drinking dirty water. And so I realized as I build out my vision that I don't just want to serve the families and the entrepreneurs and the people who have already made it to a level where they have their basic needs met. I want this to come to the whole world. Well, that can happen with accessible energy, affordable for the general public. And so it's not a wind turbine, it's a land sail, first one in history. It's smaller, more efficient, and it's fantastic because once those are in place, and we're just coming up to production in the next year, then people will have the clean water, the abundant food, the housing, the infrastructure, the clinics, the schools, right up to the learning centers that I envision on every continent, and we'll build it from the ground up together.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I think have we? Did I miss any questions? I can't believe 35 minutes have gone by in a blink. This has been so wonderful having you here. Any more parting thoughts before we conclude? Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, well, thank you, Ellen, for what you're doing. I love the message that you're bringing to the world, and not just the message as we've been talking about, but the practical application as a coach, as a mentor, as someone who has experienced great success in your career. And you could retire and ride off into the sunset, but you have chosen to give back, and that's so valuable. And yeah, anything I can do to help, I love our collaboration. And anyone who's listening, if I can help you move forward towards your goals, it doesn't have to be collections related, but I would love that. So I love connecting with people.
Well, Christine, you are a master networker and like one of the most sincere people I know. Wear your heart on your sleeve. I know this particular topic may not seem completely aligned with what the define yourself is with knowledge workers and, within companies. But I think the message you're saying, and I mean, just like innovation can come from anywhere. And it comes from a person, right? So it's just the emphasis on an innovation. And then I use the word entrepreneur, so it's like you can take the idea of entrepreneur and move it into a company setting. My husband and I are selling our box truck. Anyone out there that wants one? And my new phrase is don't be outside the box, be outside the box truck. But it's like, how do we like expand our thinking? How do we think entrepreneurially, but within a company to help each other, to get those win-win scenarios. And it's all based on relationships. So that's
if we can do it in schools and not-for-profits. I spent 8.5 years in the church ministry realm. Our jobs, our businesses, our relationships, it all relates. And I love that. I love what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Let's give the audience a little bit of an opportunity to figure out how to get in touch with you.
Awesome.
Christine is on LinkedIn. She's only one in-mail away in case you have any questions for her or ideas and want to connect. And again, just such a sincere thank you for coming and sharing, your vision and kind of getting us all excited about what's possible.
Oh, my pleasure, truly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.